everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Alessandrini. I'm joined by my co-host, Tom O'Gorman. Tom, how are we doing?
I'm all right. I'm coming off a little under the weather weekend, but the highlight of my week, I got a fresh fly haircut.
Ooh, I got a
Look at
haircut
that.
today too.
You did. Did you guys get haircuts today? Wait, are we 4 for 4?
Yep, we have
No.
No, I
guests
got one tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Got it.
Busy
Yeah,
day.
one day late.
Dang it.
Fun.
We have guests. Tom, do you want to introduce the guests?
Sure. We have Chad Martin and Andrew DeKonig. Do you go by, is it Ig or Ing? Koenig?
Ing. Yeah,
Koenig.
it's done. Yep.
My bad. Killed that intro. They are from Team PGR, which have taken one lap by storm the last couple of years. That's how we know them. But they are heavily involved in EV motorsports and have a big history of motorsports. That'd be fun to have them on. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for jumping on with I mean, I told you about it last week, but then it was kind of like, Tom, we're recording tonight. And he's like, yes, we are. I was like, have you reached out to PGR? And Tom's like, I thought you were. I was like, I think I was, but that's my bad. So then I hit up Chad like an hour before. I was like, hey, we're still recording, right? So if you want the behind the scenes of what it looks like to be a guest on the Lizard Brains podcast, it's chaos.
Similar to being on air.
Yeah, a
But
little
yeah,
bit.
welcome, guys.
So, how are you guys doing today?
We're doing well.
Yeah.
I think we've recovered from one lap. It was long
Finally?
enough ago now. It was long enough.
That was going to be one of my first questions. Did you guys do any motorsports since then? We always catch up on our motorsports activities from the weekend.
Yeah, so I think what we've noticed, kind of, at least what I've noticed watching or listening to your podcast, is you guys are certainly more active than we are. But I was
to be.
down at Barber last weekend. I took because I don't get to drive the Plaid much, so I took it down to Barber and just kind of had a track day down there and played a little bit. So I don't think you've done anything.
Real quick, just
Nope.
so the audience can try to pick up on the voices, can you guys introduce yourselves?
Oh yeah. So Chad Martin, and I'm Andrew DeKonig.
Okay, cool. So, Chad, you said you don't get to drive the Tesla a lot?
Yeah, so maybe that's to dive right into it. I know that you guys have talked about this, how we started the first year with the Model 3 and we sort of split driving duties. And then once we switched to the Plaid and we started to get serious about competing, Andy is faster than I am. So, and I kind of more enjoy the support mechanic engineer part of it. So we decided to dedicate to one and the other. And so it's not so much a car owner, because we co-own the car, a car owner and a driver. It's more like an engineer driver type arrangement.
Gotcha. Can we add a so far at the end of your statement that Andrew is faster so far?
Well, I haven't called you guys for coaching yet, but that's to come. So
better watch out, Andrew. He's coming for you.
yeah, right.
I try to convince him to drive the car more, because the car is super fun to drive.
It looked pretty fun. I was watching, what was that? I keep forgetting the name of the track that we went to during one lap. That was like, we were just like polishing the track surface for like that filthy rich dude. What track was that?
Oh.
Where we were his minions, even though we were paying to be there.
Yes.
Yeah,
that would have been the pre-run at Hedge Hollow. Is that what you're talking about?
So I remember watching. Apparently, it was Andrew driving in turn one, just because that was like a great place to watch. And man, you could just see the weight of the car, just like how like leaned, like all the cars went through, and you could see like the tires kind of like flexed over, and then the Tesla went through, and the tires were just like extra angry as it came through, and like the way it moved on the surface, you're just like, there's some momentum behind this one. So it was fun to watch, like the difference in like the composure in all the cars. But yeah, just watching my one vantage point through turn one, Andrew was hustling the car. It looked really good.
Yeah, it was good to drive ahead of time there. Yes. Yeah, because, and I was talking to Brock. I don't know what you did to there, but you can go super wide there and go quite a bit faster. So some people were staying like actually on the track, and some people weren't, and I definitely wasn't.
No, yeah,
No.
the only person that went more off track than you, I think, was Julian Garfield. So he was like, there was grass somewhere out there, and he might have actually seen where it was. So
He tracked out to Kansas. Yeah.
yeah.
He set a precedent going into the weeds at Hastings, so I think we all saw it coming.
Did you
So
guys go off
Yeah.
in Hastings?
no, we didn't. Julian did in
Oh,
the
I didn't realize that.
Wasn't it on the
the
warm-up
warm-up
lap?
lap.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
on the
look, if you're
warm-up
gonna
lap.
go off, do it during the warm up lap, right?
Well,
Yep. I did
Maybe
that
you
one.
to somebody.
Yeah. Um, man, Barber's a hell of a haul for just a track day. You didn't do like Brainerd or Road America, nothing like that. What was going on at Barber?
oh, well, there was a couple other missions involved with that, but I called my wife along with me, and we actually stopped at Nashville, and it was the CMA fest, Country Music Award Fest there, so it was chaos, super
Nice.
fun, but so yeah, we kind of made it a multifaceted thing, but yeah.
That's fun. I was wondering if you guys already heard recon for or doing recon for next year or something, because I've already gotten texts from one lapper saying, "Hey, I need some intel on this track because I'm hearing it might be on next year's."
Ooh,
You
what
could
track
probably
is
guess
that?
who would already know
Hold
that,
on, which
but I'm
track
I'm
is
not
that?
going to. No,
You're not gonna
I'm not
say?
going to say
You
it.
can't freaking tease
No,
that
no,
like that,
Information.
bro.
no,
I
I
don't
don't
think
need
we're
it.
that far on the inside circle yet.
Can you
No,
type it
Yeah.
in the chat? Can you type it in the chat?
just take a guess. Who would be already trying to practice for next year of all the people that do one lap every year?
Well, I would assume Peter Lear, but
No, no,
oh,
no,
it's Salil.
no, 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 no. You guys
Hmm.
you're in the wrong track. Anyway,
Practice
okay, so
next year.
what?
That you just derailed this. Now I'm gonna be thinking about this for the rest of the
I
time.
did.
Yeah.
Andy's raising his hand. Do you have a comment, question,
I'm just fixing the
feedback?
camera. Sorry.
Okay. So how did you guys get caught up in all this motorsport stuff? Because we only know you guys through one lap. I've seen you the last 3 years, kind of once or twice a year. I know you come from rotaries, but or at least Andy does maybe, or something like that. But that's about all I know. So how'd you guys get caught up in this stuff?
No, we both came from rotaries. Actually, there's a couple more in here. Still,
If the camera was a little
if the
wider,
camera was a little wider, you'd see a couple of FDs, and my FC is back there. You can see the red
Mhm.
is an FC. That's my car as well. So, and we do have a 3-rotor Cosmo sitting over here too. So I would say we're still into rotaries. It's just they're usually broken. So which
As they
shouldn't
do.
surprise anybody. Um, I think that yeah, we both started on when we met, kind of doing rotary track days and time trials, and then we got into NASA racing a little bit, the wheel to wheel stuff.
Mm, okay.
Um, and then Andy did one lap in an FD
the one
in
right here, the yellow
2006.
one right there.
I can see the fender.
Just remember, this is a podcast, also.
I know. They could see it at least.
Yeah, but
Perks of
yeah, yeah.
That's a good
perks of
point
So
to
watching
watch
the
us on
video.
YouTube
Yeah,
because yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Do a
Did you
shop
say
tour.
2006? Is that what you said? One lap in 2006?
Yep, 2006. Did we meet? We met in like 2004,
2004 or 5. Yeah,
something like that. I bought my FD in 2002. I don't know when you got your first FC. Long time ago.
about the same time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we've been doing this for 20 plus years,
Yeah, damn.
and we did the one lap in friend Damian's FD, and then we also ran like NASA nationals for a few years in a row there, doing time trials with another friend, doing racing,
All in
and
rotaries.
yeah, I think all in rotaries. Did we run like a Miata at one point?
We messed with Spec Miata for a little bit, which is obviously fun. But beyond that, yeah, mostly Mazdas. So,
But then you
yeah.
ran the F4 car at the F1 race.
Oh yeah, we did that too.
Wait.
So but we're gonna start remembering a whole bunch of stuff
Hold
and
on.
bore
Did you do a
people with a
support
huge.
race at a F1 race?
Yeah, we ran an F4 car
I
at
like
an
how
F1
Chad
race.
just like freaking.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I did that once. No big deal.
Yeah, what?
What the heck?
And he got the pit right in front of Red Bull.
It actually is a hilarious story because we were like, it wasn't the same pit, but it was the same. Obviously, you're in the infield, and I just had my Tundra towing a tandem axle trailer, and we're amongst all these rigs, right?
Yeah, the Formula One
We
rigs.
just had a pop-up tent, like, we had club weekend set up at a pro race, and we were getting the side eye from all kinds of people, so,
Dude, that's awesome.
That's
um,
amazing.
I went and saw a
it was fun.
I went and saw a Canadian F1 race, I think it was, like, back in 2015, and, the most entertaining race to watch the whole weekend was the Nissan Micras.
Uh,
That was the most they're like 80 horsepower, like, shit boxes, and they were racing like it was the world championship, it was so good.
is that
Yeah, the
so?
sports series are entertaining, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah, well, but it's like, being part of the F1, like, support weekend, it kinda adds, like, a gravitas to it, right? So, like, the field was, like, 50 cars deep of Nissan Micras, and probably every Nissan Micra that was ever sold was there, and, yeah, it was,
Yeah.
that was super fun to watch. They were all, like, nose to tail, obviously, because that's all they can do, but, it was just cool. I didn't even understand that there were F1 support races until I was there like at an actual F1 race weekend, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! It would be so cool to do that one day." And here we are with freaking Chad Martin, F1 support racer. Hell yeah!
Were you already racing that car a bunch, or like was it just like I get the chance to go do that, I'm gonna do that?
no, it was a grassroots, like, "We don't belong here, we're just gonna do it anyway," type thing. So
That's good.
a buddy of mine bought an F4 car, and they were just kinda actually, it's 2 of my buddies, and they were just kind of ha having fun with it, and then they're like, "Hey, let's go to COTA." I'm like, "Okay, I guess we'll do that."
Yeah, sure.
So,
Cool. That is super
Dang,
cool.
that
Okay.
sounds exactly like my first pro weekend with my Fit. It was like my little Fit and my mom and my dad and my friend and my pop-up tent, and that's it. And it was like a NASCAR weekend and all this, and you're just like, I don't belong here, but this is freaking cool.
I want to dive into like how you guys got like your first start. So like getting like we're going way back. Like was it what was it? Was it like Mario Kart? Like what got you guys interested in like racing to begin with?
Gran Turismo for sure.
Man,
But before that, it
Yeah.
was probably, Days of Thunder, the Nintendo game, maybe? I mean, if
okay.
we're gonna go way back,
There's a Nintendo game?
yeah, there was, like, a Nintendo
Was
game,
there?
Days of
Okay,
Thunder.
hold on, I gotta look it up.
Yeah,
Yep, hold on. I'm looking it up.
I'm
it was
picturing that Ivan Stewart off-road racing. That's what I'm picturing.
pretty good too. That's a good one too,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh my. Hold on.
What year was this,
It's the
DJ? What would you
worst
Oh,
say?
racing sim you'll ever play in your life if you ever get a chance to try it, but
I don't
Uh,
know. I don't know what year it was, but I'm gonna post a little screenshot in the or a little snippet. This is what the graphics look like. For those watching at home, it almost looks like a it almost
it's like
look
pole position a little bit.
yeah, like pole position, but like you almost like have to turn your head like 45 degrees, so like you're in line with the banking. Did the picture load in the chat? Because it's not loading on my end, and I'm the one that posted
Yeah, I
it.
see it.
You do see it? Okay. Whatever.
you've been hit by copyright already.
Yeah, the Days of
Yeah,
Thunder copyright is insane. Uh-oh,
Scientology.
I think my Discord's dying. Yep,
You there?
yep, I'm here, but it's doing weird things. I don't think it liked me. Oh, it definitely did not like that. Okay, I think it's good now. We're good. All right.
Glad you got through that.
Yeah, it's held together with toothpicks and bubble gum over here. So, um, all right, so Days of Thunder on the Nintendo. So you played that and you're like, "Oh, racing is my thing," or like how did that or so that was yours, Chad. What about you, Andrew?
I did in college, since you gave me a little time, I remember now. I did in college, something called Pod, which was not really a racing thing, it was like a futuristic thing, whatever, but I was gonna ask you, they did have an online component to it, so you could run, and I was, like, top 3 in the world on the time trials,
What was the
for
game
the
called?
competition that they did. Say it again?
What was the game called?
It was called, like, Pod Racer?
Pod?
like POD. Yeah,
What was it
yeah, it was a
on?
Ubisoft game, and I bought like I bought a wheel even for it. So I had a wheel and pedals, and this was probably in like
Oh my goodness.
1998 or something, or 1999, something like that. But I bought a
Oh,
pedal and wheels, and that helped a lot. And I figured out how to jump one of the corners, and that helped a lot. And I got up under the like top 5 or top 3 in the world. And it was like a competition. They were going to do a thing and they were going to award something. And then I realized afterwards that the actual competition was like this live thing, and the network code was terrible. So you would like crash into people and you'd be dead. So none of that stuff was any fun. But I was still like top in the world on the pod racer thing.
so that was you being good at it was like, "Ooh, maybe racing's my thing."
That's the first racing thing that I did. Yeah, and it was fun. And I had posters up on my bedroom like every kid did, and I had a Viper, and because the Viper was, 90 early 90s, and it was awesome.
It's always a
And
Viper.
yeah, it's always Viper, but when I went to actually buy Viper's not very good, so then I found something called the RX-7 FD. I'm like, "Ooh, that looks like," and lots of people called it like a mini Viper.
Yeah,
So I'm like, "Hey, I
apparently.
could actually buy one of those." I had 0 mechanical skill. I didn't know how to fix anything. I was interested, but I just like, my dad didn't wasn't really interested in growing up. So I bought it, in 2002. It was, immediately broken. Of course, actually, it was broken, yeah, before I bought it, and
No way.
yeah, I know it's weird.
You know what they
So
called the
then I
Viper?
found Damian, and he helped me fix it in his driveway, like, over and over again, and that was the start of it
That
for
that was
sure.
that was you're like, "Oh, now I can fix the broken cars."
Yep, yep, now let's go run them, right? Because we have these cool cars, let's go find some place to run them. And we did a bunch of local stuff. That's where I met Chad, was at, like, a local place here. Um, it's like a driver or a semi truck training course or whatever that they run, like, sorta like autocrossy things on, and
Okay.
that
Dakota
was
County.
pretty cool. And then there's another one that's like the Minnesota, like, state law enforcement training track or whatever, and there's stories about that one too, but at one point, I ended up, like, out in the marsh in the car.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Was
so
was was one of
that was
those 2
somewhere.
Dakota County, technical facility, whatever
Yes.
they call it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dakota County is one of them. Yep, that's where we went.
Okay.
Yep.
They started sending me to track night there when I was working for SCCA, and the first time I got
Yes.
there, and it was, like, some guy unlocking the gate, and it was just, like, mini airport roads all crisscrossing, and I'm like, "This is where you do your track days? What?" And you're
Yeah.
barely in 3rd gear ever,
I think I've
but
seen
the
videos of this
driving was really
place.
cool.
I think I've
Yeah.
seen is there there's like a straightaway and there's like a forest off to the left?
Yeah, and there's a skid pad right in the middle of it.
Yeah,
It's like a enhanced version of tire rack,
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
yeah.
what tire rack should be.
Well,
Pretty much.
let's not go that way.
The problem is at DCTC, and we saw this at least once, maybe twice, there's, like, the road, it's a training road, so you're supposed to be going 20 miles an hour or whatever, and then it goes down into a ditch, and then there's a fence.
Yeah.
So, like, the part where you're going fast, you, like, do a little switchback thing, and you're going fast. If you screw it up, you go into the ditch and then into the fence. And we saw that multiple times. And if they leave it wide open, you're going like 80, 90 miles an hour in a fast car on what's basically a little training track that you should be going 30 miles an hour. So
Okay.
it's fun, but it's like, yeah, I don't know.
I
So
think it's one of the 3, like, usual suspects for local autocross
Yeah.
scene, right?
yeah.
So, they run there 2, 3 times a year. It's like half a track, half a parking lot, right, basically, so,
Pretty much.
um, it's fun, but
That reminds me of the other thing that I think we did that started me on the track stuff. We did the Mazda Rev It Up thing, which
Oh,
was like
really?
2004 or whatever. And he
Huh?
got to do it like 2 or 3 times, and I ended up with a silver medal, which was like nothing. But it was
well,
fun.
2004, what was that in? Like a how
Mazda 6. The Mazda
okay,
6 was brand new, I
okay.
think, and they had a Mazda Speed, Miata, which I tried to drive, and I couldn't sit in, and I was, like, all crunched up, and then, they had the Mazda 6s.
Was it the
Yeah, and we did
Mazda
the little course,
Speed 6 or just a regular Mazda 6?
just a regular Mazda 6. I don't even think they had the Speed 6 at that point,
So,
and
ho
that was also competition, and then there was a big thing, and they brought everybody together, and at the end, somebody won, like, a Mazda 6. I think it
They
was
want a car. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
it was
okay,
like
hold on.
I think it was like Dan
You,
Top or something was
you
at the final. There was a few guys that were, autocross guys that ended up in the finals.
so you
Hmm.
guys know what this competition is. I've never heard of this. What is it?
It's Mazda Rev It Up. They only did it, like, a couple years.
So, but what was the competition?
Oh, it was just a little autocross course. Did you do it?
No,
Oh, you didn't do it.
So
Well, a couple of the other guys did it,
you would show
that we
up and
know.
drive their cars?
Yes, yeah, they had theoretically equally prepared cars. There was like 8 or 10 of them. I think you got to do 3 runs, which I guess is like an autocross thing. They set up a little course with cones, um, and maybe the course was like 30 or 40 seconds at the fairgrounds, at the state fairgrounds in Minneapolis.
Dude, Tom would have won a car. Do we know who
I
won?
know. Who won?
I'm trying to remember who won the Mazda. I know someone. I believe GJ Dixon won it 2 years in a row, and I think the second year they didn't give him a car because he won it 2 years in a row. But I think the year he won it was after they. I think Mazda had pulled out and Chevy did it. So whoever
Okay.
was putting it on must have sold it to Chevy, and GJ won a Corvette from it because it was a Chevy instead of like a Mazda 6 or whatever. So
Dixon?
he
GJ.
GJ Dixon, yeah.
Oh, cool. He still autocrosses.
Yeah. So you guys are in Minnesota. That means do you guys know like Jeremy Swenson and the ASM people for 20 years? Like they all know each other, or were you guys kind of doing just slightly different stuff? You're in
no, I
Minneapolis, yeah?
think we met the ASM crew about the same time as we met you, and through yeah, so we're not that far away,
Yeah.
but I don't know, maybe it's just different playing in different sandboxes or something, I don't know, but
Dude,
we didn't do a lot of autocross,
We didn't do
almost
any.
none,
We did 0
almost none.
autocross.
Yeah, I think it's basically 0. So we started right with just track days up at BIR and
Road
some of the other
America,
yeah, Road America.
Autobahn,
Sure.
and then we friend of ours, Damian, got a relationship with the guy that managed the track in Omaha. Which what was it called at the
It
time?
was MAM.
Yeah, it was Mid America
I don't know what it
Motorplex.
is now, closed maybe, but
Yeah.
No, it's called RPM now or
Oh
I-29
yeah,
Speedway.
it's Raceway Park in the Midlands. Yeah. So anyway, for a number of years, we ran our own kind of track days with 10 to 50 people
Mm,
at MAM, and that was super fun because a lot of them were newer, like probably most of them were newer. And then if somebody didn't know MAM or didn't know performance driving, well, we would kind of like instruct with them. And so I got to jump into probably 50 different cars and instruct with people, which helps you learn. You feel all the different cars, all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, all that stuff. And then a decent chunk of the time, I would say, hey, I'll go out and do a couple laps with you, slow, to kind of show you where the line is. That's what we call the thing. Actually, was find the line. And yeah, it was super fun. So I got to drive 30, 40 different cars plus our own. And we were
yeah.
doing a couple years we did like 50 days on track.
Holy cow.
Mostly yeah, mostly just track days. But some, time trials and some racing stuff thrown in.
And these are events you guys organize like it's your business or something.
Yeah, yeah, we formed a little LLC and we ran them. Yep, yep.
That's super cool.
It was super fun. And because we had the relationship with the guy at the track, it was not expensive to do. We were able to do it for people. I think it was like $200 or it was like $150 for a day. And
Yeah,
we go down there for a Saturday and Sunday, sometimes Friday too. Um, yeah, inexpensive, fun. Got to learn a lot. That forms the basis of kind of experience, at least for me in motorsports.
sure. Yeah, I know they still
Yeah,
rent it out for I don't know how the exact cost, but it's like 10 car cap, 2 cars on track at a time, and it's super cheap. Um,
yeah,
and I thought they just repaved it or something like that. They just rejudged it, but it goes underwater every time it floods. Was it doing that
yeah.
then
That's
too? Yeah.
like 10 feet underwater.
yeah,
Like the roofs are underwater. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I
Actually, it's funny, Randy was on last week. We met him there, Apex showed up for one of our events
Yeah,
and
yeah,
split time with us there. And I think they were running the Porsches at the time.
they were on the Porsches and a Volvo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had both.
And
Hmm.
so that was neat. They just showed up and were testing, and
Got to hang out.
Do you guys still put on events at all?
Our cars were broken for a long time, so we kind of stopped doing. Also, I got married and had 3 kids.
Gotcha.
Uh, yeah, so the
Oh,
Realistic.
time
the
there
c
was no 50 days on track in a year. That's for sure.
Yeah.
so I found an article about the 2004 Mazda Rev It Up that so Motor Trend was covering it, and repeat champ Mark the Alien Daddio does it again
It
is
was
the headline.
Daddy-O.
It wasn't
Oh,
GJ
shoot.
Dixon, it was Mark Daddio.
I got that wrong. I thought I could swear GJ Dixon won it one year too.
Okay. Well, maybe because if they did it 3 years, then that yeah. So yeah, that's cool. Mark, I think I'm going against Mark Daddio in like 2 weeks in an autocross event. I think he's going to be in the same class as me.
Sweet.
So that's cool. 2004, man. I was playing Halo in 2004. I wasn't even thinking about racing.
That's kind of wild. You guys both have a little bit of a video game. Would you say you have a video game background at all, or is that just like that was just the catalyst you thought of?
Because I brought up Mario
I think
Kart.
we both played too many video games growing up and recently.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, we got into iRacing for a little while too. That was kinda around there. I don't know exactly what year that was, but when iRacing was new, it was pretty fun.
Yeah,
Um,
first 2, 3 years, we were pretty heavy iRacing.
okay, so you guys got a lot of experience through that.
yep.
This would have been like what, oh 09, 10, and 11 or something like that?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds right. Yep. Kinda gave it up. Honestly, we got frustrated with the tire models early on. They were so bad. And it seems like they got worse for a while before they got better. I don't know. Maybe somebody else can say that who actually still does it, but,
Boy, do I
um
have the guy for you.
Hello. Well, I mean, I didn't start iRacing till 2017, so that's when they were on the V6 tire model. And there were certain cars that like drove well, and then other ones that didn't. And I kind of just stuck to the. I basically only drove the Miata like back then, just because I found the racing really fun. And then they had the new Miata in it in 2017. And yeah, I think like a year or two later, they came out with the new tire model, which is like a completely different way they're doing the tires, and it's much more forgiving with slip angle, and they allow squirming on the surface a lot more than the old tire models used to. So it's
yeah.
I think it's in a really good spot right now. It's like they just made an update to my favorite car, and I think it there's never been a car that drives more like a car in iRacing. So I'm like
Which car?
Porsche Cup.
Mm.
So it's normally like a little bit of a death machine, and it still definitely is, but the ways that you kind of like twist the car in and like aim the car at the like the exit before you're like even fully turned, and then just get in power, and then just like the wheel will be straight but it carves like an arc like to the edge of the racetrack. It it does that, and like the way it shifts the weight from front and back and stuff, it just feels very, it feels like it's like hitting the same brain pathways that is hit when I'm driving real car. So I just feel like those pathways being reinforced as I'm turning laps. Tom's in a fight with
And I
iRacing right
can't
now.
I can't stand driving that car. So there's still a spectrum there
You
when
haven't
it comes to
driven it on the new
iRacing.
tire model yet, though. You haven't driven it on the new one.
Yeah. All right, I'll come over and drive it on your
Hell yeah!
new tires and
You
see if
you coming
you're
over
gonna
this
put
weekend?
stickers on it though. Sure, why not?
Cool.
Um, so what was the catalyst, or when did the shift towards the EV stuff start? Because like I said, we know you from that. I'm learning now there's a ton of history there, but what
Yeah.
was the catalyst
Also,
for that?
you guys don't look old, but it seems like you've been doing this for like 30 years. So
I would
what
have put you
gives?
within 5 years of my age, and yeah, but I guess I've
The
been doing
camera
this for
being
20
fine.
years.
Dad looks old, just so you know.
I'm old, yeah. Um, so, well, I think it was kind of Andy got I'm gonna speak for you, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. But Andy got real interested in Tesla and kind of the technology of it. And he bought a Model 3 right when they came out.
Yeah, I was there. I was one of the first day people, the first day in line people signing up for the Model 3 because the Model S was an interesting car. Like lots of people like it, but the old Model S is not very performance friendly. Straight line, sure, but not like
Sure.
in an actual track. And the 3, they had said they were gonna do quite a bit different, and of course, it was just way less expensive. So, yeah, I signed up for the first day. Did you sign up on the first day?
No,
No,
I
because
was super skeptical. And then I drove his when we got it, and I'm like, "Wow, this is not what I thought it was gonna be." I thought this thing was and I mean, the thing that probably shocked me first, which is what one of the things we talk about with these cars is it does not feel it feels 1,000 pounds lighter than it is,
Yeah.
you know? Except for, like, kind of that edge case of trying to change the direction of the car. You can feel the weight a little bit in the moment, trying to not weight transfer, it's not what I'm talking about, and you guys probably can describe this better than I can, but in the polar moment of changing the direction of the car, these cars feel a little sluggish. But from a center of gravity, I mean, the center of gravity on the Plaid is 7 inches lower than an RX-7, so it's like
It feels
they don't
flat.
lean over as much, they don't
Yeah.
what
It feels flat, right?
Yeah, and so it makes the car feel lighter, at least in my estimation, than it actually is. I mean, from the outside, like you were saying, obviously, it's still destroying the tires and, you know, but so that was intriguing, and then we just kind of found a challenge that where we would be not the first, but one of the first to kind of push the envelope with them a little bit, and found that to be interesting, and kind of just ran with it.
yeah.
So
They didn't have the performance version right away either, so I had the rear wheel long range, which would not be a good track car. It doesn't have track mode, there's all kinds of stuff. But relatively shortly afterwards, they did release a performance version, and that's what you bought.
that's what I bought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then at some point in there, they released track mode for it, and the first version was really bad, and they screwed up the ABS, and, Tesla's thing is they put something out. They get the hardware to a reasonable point, and then they put it out, and then they iterate on it forever, mostly in software, but also in the hardware too. So the first cars, the first track mode and stuff, the whole thing was not very good, but
Yeah.
they got it by the time we went to 1 lap, I think we got an update relatively shortly before that, and the car was pretty good. So that first year, we ran it completely stock. We couldn't even get pads for it. We could get literally nothing. So it was 100% stock, and it still has some issues trying to do the 1 lap stock. I think we nuked because that was a year where we were at Road America.
yeah, we
Oh,
lit the brakes on fire at Road America.
yeah, I bet.
Yeah, what year do you remember what year this was? Because I saw the 3 my first year was your last year with the 3. That was 2021.
Yeah, so that was 19.
It was
Okay.
19, yeah.
So yeah, um, I think I'm totally blanking on his name, but he was there with the Corvette that year, and I think they broke at Road America.
Yeah.
Chris Lewis?
No, 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 no.
No, that you're the
Steve Loudon?
why am I
Oh,
blanking?
Steve. Yeah, yeah, Steve, sorry.
Steve, thank you.
Correct, yeah.
He hired, the guy
He
from
hired
Ins
Curran.
Eric Curran,
yeah,
yeah.
Eric Curran, yes. Yeah, and he and Andy and the McLaren were super fast, but he broke, and that was which is why the next year, I think when you were with them, it would the team name was "Let's Finish This Year" or something like
Yeah.
which they did, and you did, and you won, so that was good. Yeah, so the car that year was fun. It was good. We made the whole event. We were the first one to ever do an electric car. At that point, nobody thought that you could make the whole event, In general, people just didn't think you could drive anywhere. But even by then, there was lots of superchargers everywhere. So I did the whole spreadsheet thing, try to figure out the route, but we didn't have to do any of that. You just put it in the car and let it rip, and we would make it to the tracks. But the challenge then is still the same challenge now. It's gotten a little easier in some ways, but you have to figure out how to get the car charged for the track. and that is something that, like, nobody el well, maybe some people who are running, like, weird race gas or E85 or something have to deal with that, but we have to figure out how to get the thing charged. If you don't have it charged fully, it's not fast.
So, like, when you
Hmm.
say fully, you mean like 100%.
Ideally,
As
you go
close as to 100 as possible.
yeah, ideally, you go at 100%. Like, the power of the car is, the whole electric equation, current times volts. So the higher the volts are on an electric car, volts equals state of charge. So the higher the volts are, the lower the current is. The lower the current is, the lower the heat, the better off you are. So you
Right.
want
That makes
as high
sense.
as you possibly can.
So, what do the logistics look like to do 1 lap in a car that you need this what do you make it, like, 2.5, 3 hours before you have to charge, like, on the commutes?
Yeah, yeah. The first year it was worse. The logistics were worse because, well, first of all, the Model 3 is a smaller battery, so we can go less distance. We didn't do all the modifications and stuff, so actually it went a little further than than this does now. But then we didn't have as many options for chargers. We had to stop, like, in inopportune places from time to time. The car's doing it all, you don't have to figure it out, but, I think we figured out that year it probably cost us an hour and a half or something like that.
Per night.
Yeah, per night. Maybe a little longer on the ones where they're longer, a little less on the ones where they're shorter.
Now
But the other big problem is the car is not as fast, so, like, the whole one lap thing, if you run up front, you get out of the tracks earlier. Well, we weren't running up front, and we didn't qualify that high either, so we're, like, an hour and a half behind, and then we get another hour and a half behind, so we made it, but it was much more of a it was just a sleep challenge
yeah,
for the one
Sure.
laps.
so you said it took you about an hour and a half more. Did that count in, like, the normal gas stops people would make? Because, Peter and
Yeah.
we would hustle during our stops, and every stop would still take 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, we're saying, like, an hour and a half more than what,
Tom's
a
looking at me
normal
weird,
I
but that's
think
how long
most
it would
people in
take.
the gas before we did it too, we did it in the FD, and the FD gets terrible mileage, at least in the race config, and we would stop, like, 2 or 3 times. So, with the Tesla, we were stopping, like, 3, 4 times, and then each one is, like, double.
Oh,
So that's
true,
how you end up, like, an hour and a half.
true.
That the Model 3 just doesn't charge as fast either, and back then, there was no V3 superchargers either, I don't think.
Yeah, so there's over the years, there's more superchargers. They're a little bit faster. The Model S charges faster. So now we're down to, like, maybe we're losing 45 minutes to the other teams through a
Sure.
night, if that.
Yeah, and we're running up front, so we don't
Yeah,
we don't
so
lose
we
that
leave the
hour and a
track
half.
earlier. That
So
Yeah.
it's
helps.
really not that bad then.
No.
No, it's not. It's not that, um I mean, the only thing that sort of has been a negative is every time we do something to the car to make it faster on the track, it drops a ton of range on the road. And so we've got, what used to be when it rolled off the factory floor, it was like 350 miles range, the plaid was. Now it's like 180, 190 maybe. So
So tires, right? And then the arrow. That's
tires, aero, I don't know.
Alignment.
Yeah,
oh,
alignment.
alignment, yeah, because you're gonna have camber, so it's not riding as efficiently on the tire as possible. Uh,
Yeah.
what about if you detach the wing and, like, threw it in the trunk? Would that get you, like, 20 more miles?
It probably would.
Mm.
It might.
Just
Really?
be draggy.
Yeah. We trim it out usually.
For your commutes, you
Um
trim
Yeah.
the wing out? I love
between
that.
tracks, we'll just drop it flat.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, obviously, but that's not something I thought of.
There's not really
That's
that much else that we can do to it between the tracks.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
changed the
That's the thing with
Yeah,
the electric. It's not like it's not like you're throwing another exhaust or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just it's like that's the output of the battery and the motor controllers, and this is the torque that the motor can put out, and that's it. Like, you guys can do
yep,
stuff to add lightness and grip, but, like, how fast it is, which it's very fast, is that's all it's got.
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, and actually we're like, the stock car has more power than we normally run it at, which is also like a EV on track kind of thing. Like the lower you go with the power, at least with the Teslas. I guess we don't know exactly. I think the other ones are mostly the same too. But the lower you turn the power, the longer you get to run the car. And
at
what
that power.
yeah, at that power. So like with this car, if we turn it all the way down to like maybe 550 or 600 horsepower, which is not low, right? It's still 550 or 600 horsepower, but if we turn it down that far, we can run the car for like 30 minutes and it will maintain that power the whole time. But if we crank it up to, 900, 950, like we're doing TT laps at Grid Life at Mid Ohio last year, it does like maybe one lap, maybe two at the most.
What
And then it's cooked.
happens? Does it just does it like overheat and go into like limp mode, or what does it do?
No, it has a at least the Plaid, the Model 3 does something a little different, but the Plaid has essentially temperature sensors everywhere, and it just turns the power down. It has like a logic loop, so it just turns the power down so that the temperature does not rise anymore.
Gotcha. So you'll see
And
on
it's
like your lap timer, it's just like, yeah, you just see it turning red, and you're like, yep, oh, it started cutting power.
Yeah, well, we have so obviously our car is sponsored by Mountain Pass, so Sasha put a Motec in the car, and Sasha is a Motec dealer for Canada. And so he knows everything about it. He works on all kinds of cars. Well, in this car, he actually replaced the suspension controller with the Motec so that we can run aftermarket suspension. But then he also instrumented the car with brake temp sensors. He's got it connected into the ECU, and he made it so that we can view some of the car data live on the Tesla screens. So I
Wow.
can see brake temps, I can see motor temps, I can see
coolant temp.
yeah, coolant temp into the pack or out of the pack? I don't remember which. And
I the aggregate battery temperature is the one that we look at most
yep,
because, yeah, like he was saying, as you approach the max temperature, the car incrementally cuts power to keep the battery from overheating any further.
Right.
So
yeah, so
so
if
during
you're
one
doing,
lap,
like a long run.
oh, sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so during one lap, so you're looking at that battery temp, like especially like Hedge Hollow, which was like a long course, right? So
Yes,
you're basically like your lap time is limited to like being smooth with how you're making the speed without using as little of the battery temp as possible. And your goal is to like as you cross the finish line in the last lap that it's like okay, that's it, like we've had enough.
that's the game.
So you're trying to, dude, that's like a whole nother game to play. So like not only you're just trying to execute good laps, you're also trying to like in real time because of the format of one lap, you're trying to manage the amount of available go juice that you're like distributing like throughout the racetrack.
Yes, that's it.
So like the first iteration of that was, okay, we'll just run the thing at 800 horsepower. But at 800 horsepower, we're finishing like 5th to 10th. So we want to eke more out of it. So we actually started to play with, okay, it'll at 60 miles an hour, it'll do 950 or 1,000. And then, it'll drop to 900 at 90 to 100 miles an hour, and it'll gradually drop itself. And that was like version 2 of trying to optimize it. And version 3 is just make this guy just does it all himself. And he just tries to figure, he lets off on the straights a little bit, not let off, but you know what I mean. And, and then I, I it's approaching F1 levels of trying to maintain the thing
Right.
over
Where
and
You're
you're
just
like,
trying to think about the curve. The whole time you're driving, you're trying to think about the curve, like, how much am I using? How much track is left? Do I have enough? And then the third thing is what we figured out is like to optimize for time, you want to like come out of the corners really fast, get to whatever the minimum speed is or maximum speed is that maximizes the time for the whole session and just leave it there. And then go into the braking zone and then do it again and again and again and just adjust the whole time. So that yeah, we cross the line at the end with battery going red.
I love your
It
guys'
reminds
camera,
me
by the way.
exactly. Yeah. It reminds me
cameras
exactly
better than accurate
of
is.
um. Wait, what?
So when Chad or Andy are talking with their hands, it's like a command to the camera, and it's like you're demanding the camera's focus. So then it's just like, "Oh, I need to focus on you." And so, like, right now, it's just it only wants Chad no matter what they do. Nope.
I got it back.
You're just gonna
I
have to
Chad's
got
sit
it
in his
back.
lap or something.
Chad's the star of the show here.
Oh no, it moved again. It reminds me exactly of endurance racing, like fuel saving or fuel economy. Like
Yeah.
you lift and coast into the corners, but like on such an extreme scale because I mean, you're coasting like halfway down straightaways sometimes, right? Or,
Most of the
or
straights. Most of the straights are
holding. It's not so much coasting as it is holding speed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So the heating of the pack, like this is getting into the esoterics of it, but the heating of the pack is non-linear. So the higher you go on power, it's I don't know if it's actually a square, a cube, or whatever, but yeah, if you hold it, down the straights, I did a little testing like at Brainerd. The car will do 175 and it will hold at about 650 horsepower at 175. So like at 140, it's like 550, so if we hold it there down the straight, which is kind of weird because you're bouncing the whole time, the pedal's really touchy because actually the last 20% of the pedal is braking. So you will have
I was gonna
80% of the travel. Um, yeah, you're trying to get it so that you can hold that speed into the braking zone. And yeah, most of the time, it's over half the straights.
Okay, so I just kind of assumed that the regen braking part of the electric car was like disabled during some like I'm on the racetrack function. That's still operating?
No, I leave it on. Some people believe that if you turn it off, then you're reducing the heat in the pack. So then you would get more acceleration. There's two problems with that. One is we're like at the limit of our brakes too. Our brake temps run like 900 C,
Oh, wow, okay.
9 sometimes. So we're kind of at the limit of the brake setup. So we want to pull heat out of the brakes by putting it, the energy at least, back into the pack. And then the second thing is, yeah, you just want that energy back.
I
So
I'm just
between the two of those,
imagining I'm just imagining how tough it would be to like roll the weight around the edge of the car to like maximize the friction circle when as you get off the brakes it's still like regen braking down and as you get in throttle it's still like slowing and then at some tipping point it's not doing that anymore and then the weight is allowed to be at the door and then you can leave the corner. That would be that
so
did that take
if
some
you
getting
drive the
used to,
car
or
at,
was it kinda natural?
uh, I don't think it's natural compared to other cars. However, if you drive the car at like 6 or 7 tenths, you can just use the regen as your trail brake. So instead of being on the brakes to turn it into the corner, you're just playing with the accelerator to turn it into the corner.
Oh, okay.
So basically, you're just going back to the accelerator really quickly, but you're only just touching it and you're still decelerating because you're on regen.
Right. So you're playing in like the negative space of the throttle pedal because the first 20% of the throttle pedal is negative 400 to 0 horsepower. Is that correct? That
Exactly.
if you
Yeah.
explained that to me. I didn't just know that. You said that in the past.
I was like,
So
"Damn,
you're
Tom."
playing in the negative space of the throttle position, which that blew my mind. I remember we were at Barber and you told me that and I was like, "What?"
Okay, so all the inputs that would normally happen, and obviously you're not thinking about this because 'cause that'd be way too much, but, like, you would adjust to it. So all the inputs that would normally happen just get shifted, like, forward-ish.
Right.
Like in the time span of like the stages of the corner. So like
Yep.
instead of like holding the brake all the way down to the apex and then like feeding in power, it's holding brake until like just before that and then you're feeding in power and then it's like you you try to pass that tipping point at apex rather. So yeah, okay, that's actually really fascinating to think about.
So the
I
problem is once you go faster than 6 or 7 tenths, it's not enough trail brake. So
Oh.
then you actually have to do the brake pedal to get it to trail brake, but then you know the adjustment you only get down to 20%. So it like doesn't actually, I don't think it works very well. I think the only way to drive it really fast is to 2 foot it. And
okay.
I've never 2 foot anything,
Okay.
or left foot brake. The only way to do it is the left foot brake.
Yeah.
and I've never left foot braked anything before. So only just, like, recently within the last few months have I tried to left foot brake. Of course, when we play The Sims, we left foot brake everything. Um, so I've done that forever, but yeah, the real car, I've never left foot brake. So I've tried to start doing that, and I think it's a lot faster to left foot brake the car. The car doesn't when you're in track mode, the car doesn't complain if you're on both pedals. Normally, when you're driving on the street, the car complains like crazy if you're on both pedals. It basically just cuts the power to 0 if you accident because it thinks, you're gonna launch yourself through Subway or something.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of how do you tell when you get past the regen portion of, like, the throttle position?
Yeah, you just have to feel it. It's and the whole thing is, like, you're bouncing around in the car the whole time, and, like, I don't know if I told you this before, Tom, but, like, when your foot moves even, like, a little bit, it's like 200 horsepower on, 400 off, 200 on, 4 like, the
Yeah.
whole time you're bouncing like that, and the car responds super fast. So, it's really, really you have to be really, really careful with the throttle input, which is difficult to do
Mm.
when you're trying to go fast, of course.
I mean,
Tom's
sorry.
dying on water.
A joke. Yep. Um,
That's fine. Earlier in this podcast, I took a phone call for a job I'm trying to get, so it's going
I,
great.
s- I s- I saw that. I was like, I guess I'm in full
Yeah,
time
I'm
here. Here
like,
we
"You
go.
got it, Tom, you
Host
got
mode.
it."
Um, what were there? It's really interesting to me. We have a couple friends who work at Tesla. They happen to be
Yes.
motorsports people for a company that
Yeah.
is not a motorsports. They don't do any of their own motorsports, and they don't. I wouldn't call them performance cars. In like, they don't advertise them as performance cars or whatever. They're sedans and SUVs stuff. There's a lot of like motorsports energy with that company, and they give you. It looks like they give you a lot of leeway. How much of that is like because you figured out, or other people have figured out, Sasha, whoever, how to like software them and get into the computers, or are they? Is the car actually conducive to what you're trying to do with it? Like, what was that learning curve? I guess
I
kind of
don't
some of
think it
both.
I mean, it's there's a lot of smart people in racing that figure out how to hack stuff,
Yeah,
and, um, so it's probably more of that, and having some of the inside help certainly helps, but
sure,
there's on an official level, they couldn't care less. I
right.
I'm fairly sure. I mean, they have kind of the bragging rights efforts where they go over the Nürburgring and try to beat up on Porsche or get beat by Porsche depending on the day,
Yeah,
um, but they're not as far as the grassroots. I mean, I don't. There's certainly no official thing. There's no Mazda Motorsports or any of that kind of stuff. But just having some of the, like you said, some of the folks that are tapped into that certainly helps. I mean, the first year we ran, you know, one of the guys we're talking about, we had an issue with the car, and he just pulled out his laptop and he was logged into. I have no idea. He was logged into his VM and back through the Tesla system, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you just need to, you know, do this." And so that's always helpful to have somebody that can help you with the back end of it. But
I I think they have people that are interested in motorsports that work for Tesla, but Tesla, the company, isn't interested.
yeah,
So they're like you said, unofficially, they help us a lot. Um, the car, as we're running it, still is running on stock software. It's still, I mean, we've essentially defeated the suspension controller because it had aftermarket suspension, but the car thinks everything's fine because of what Sasha did. Like, it's not that far away from the stock thing. Whereas like some of the other cars, like the unplugged car, they're like way far away. They've done a lot of work. Um, yeah, this is still a street car. We're still driving around
yeah.
a street
full
car.
interior,
Yeah, full interior, all that stuff, and that's part of the story of the car, and so that's why we left it that way.
So, is it pretty comfortable on commutes then, or is the suspension pretty rough?
It's it's super comfortable. Yeah,
I think we have an argument for the most comfortable commute because we have like ventilated seats and
Ooh.
all that works. And
we're listening to podcasts the whole time. We listened to like 2 books this year.
yeah,
Oh,
It's
man.
Dang.
fantastic.
That sounds pretty good. I mean, me and
You
Tom
don't
had it
even
pretty easy too, let's be honest.
I was gonna say, none of us can really complain about how hard
Yeah.
it has been, but it's not like you can it sounds like you don't mind the extra 45 minutes that you get costed or whatever we said. Um,
It it
I just
allows us to have really nice meals.
yeah, yeah.
We
That
gotta
is
stop
true.
anyway.
Yeah, yeah, that is
I just
true.
think it's so fascinating that there's I I'm kinda thinking there's, like, some sort of argument to be made that it's, like, a better motorsports vehicle somehow because you hear all these stories about how, like, the more modern cars get and the more difficult it becomes to crack, like, what the manufacturer actually wants you to be doing with the car. It almost seems like just being a battery powered, like, electric vehicle. Maybe I'm like, I don't understand enough and I'm talking out of my ass, but making a car actually function on a racetrack, it sounds like if you know the right people and you're smart enough to figure it out, that thing is just as easily, that thing being a Tesla is just as easily put on a racetrack as most cars, if not easier, to like push to that really far limit, right?
Now,
Yeah.
that being said though, you guys did have an issue going into like
Oh,
the last event of one lap. What was the issue?
So, yeah, to your point, to kind of back up, I was entertained by your guys' discussion about, the bench racing that we do in the car on one lap. Okay, what are we going to run next year, or what are we going to run the year after that?
yep.
What's the car to run? And we have these arguments with other friends of ours about like platform versus out of the box type scenario. And I
Sure.
think that, you guys nailed it when you said like out of the box, a Porsche GT car is really hard to argue with. It is like turnkey compete, better than just about anything
They
else.
still have warranties.
Um, right,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Um, and so like the Tesla, the warranty thing is funny because it sort of depends on who you talk to at the service center. On what day, if it's Monday or Wednesday and you're talking to a different person, they might like totally replace a pack for you if it goes south, or they might not. They have kind of a lot of leeway and it's a little bit wishy-washy. I think as a platform, the idea of having a lot of the weight low is good, but they're still too heavy. And the batteries can't last, I mean, as a time trial car or like the Model 3 as an autocross car, I think is really good.
Or
But
or if you just turn on the power.
yeah, or if you just turn down the power, it's a great little track day car.
Man,
It's a great
I'll tell
giant
you,
track day car.
I would
Um,
I would absolutely love to be like the first person to take a EV to some sort of power to weight, like a GLTC or a NASA ST class, and have it turned down to whatever the power to weight would work out. It would probably put out like because they're so heavy, it would probably be in the high 300, low to high 300 horsepower
How much does it weigh?
output. But if you're saying if it can run a half hour session at 5 or 600, I don't
Yeah.
see why you couldn't do that. It would just be a
Funny
problem of
you
how it
mention
makes
that.
power.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was talking to, Adam and, Abraham? No, Abe. Abe
Abe, yeah.
last year, yes. And they said no, but in the rules this year, it says provisionally we would allow EVs in there. And
Yeah.
yeah, if you took a Model 3, which is starts at about 4,000 pounds, if you only run it in rear wheel drive, if you run it on the larger pack, but then you do all the other stuff and you pull some weight out of it, I think you'd have like 3,600 pounds, which is not that far off of what some of the other cars that are in
It's
there.
basically
And yeah,
what
you'd
Rouge
be at
is.
like 300 horsepower and you could easily run a GLTC race. And that would be super fun because you could run it. In fact, if they want, we can even fake gear shifts. We can literally make the car do whatever they want for power,
That's so
at
cool.
any speed, at any whatever. And I think that would be fun to try and do ICE versus EV. I think that when I posited that on some of the forums, the other guys were not so interested in running against
Yeah.
each other, but I don't
I
know.
kind of have I kind of have this theory though that grassroots motorsports or something in the, obviously there's Formula E, which is EV, and then there's like Formula 1, and then there's a lot of like hybrid stuff and there's a lot of that going on at the top levels. But in the grassroots levels, they're mostly separated. One lap's kind of the only place where they're not like fully
Yep.
separated or like that time
Yep.
trial stuff.
Time trials,
But
yeah.
but any sort of wheel to wheel stuff, I don't think EV will be fully relevant to motorsports culture until it does mix. And that's where I'm like, whatever organization finally wants to bite the fish of like, or bite the, bite the worm of uh getting an EV and internal combustion like on the same playing field is going to be groundbreaking. That would be such a groundbreaking thing. And yes, there's challenges or whatever, but
Yep. I want Grid Life to do it. I think they should do it. I They already have the Model 3 Challenge, so Model 3 Challenge is slightly different. Sasha from Mountain Pass and Chris Hatch from EV Racing Specialist, they put it together and they are running essentially street cars, but in like a limited passing mode where if you get close enough, you swap positions because they're
yeah.
trying to have people use their normal daily drivers to do some form of competition. It's not really racing, but it's pretty fun, and they're running the cars in reduced power mode like we're talking about. So if you just take one of those now, Model 3s are much cheaper than they were even 2 or 3 years ago. You could put together a car for 25, $35,000, something like that, and you could go run it in the GLTC, and I think it would be a ton of fun
Yeah.
and interesting and
Are you
relevant like
are
you're talking
are
about.
you guys gonna do it?
I was gonna ask, are you gonna do it?
If
Because you
so,
said
why not?
funny you say that.
Yeah, they haven't it's
We're
not
we're
it's not
bench racing on that.
yeah, it's not approved yet.
That's how it starts.
Yeah. We don't want to
Well,
build it, and then they're just like, "No, you're not."
Yeah.
Like
that's fair, but there is precedent. Our friend Ryan Christoph runs a tube frame car now in GLTC, and for the first whole year, he ran it in GLTC X, which is exhibition.
Yep. Yeah, my
Uh,
guess is they might do that for us for next year. We'll see. We also have, like, RX-7s and stuff that we wanna put in GLTC, so
What are some of the challenges that you guys see with electric vehicles being more mainstream in motorsports in general? Like, what are some of the things that we have to overcome technologically or culturally, or like what are some of the things that we have to get past in order for it to just be more wide open for the masses, or are we already there?
I think I think there's you're probably alluding to um, the response from some of the tracks, which is widely varied. Um, there's some track owners that just do not want you to even show up. Edge Hollow was one of them,
And why is that?
where you know,
what's
Andy
that?
Andy showed up for the test day, and the guy's like, "Absolutely not." So,
And that's
what but
for the
you asked
fear of
why.
fire. That's for the fear of fire, right?
Yeah, yeah, so yeah, that's the answer to your question is a bunch of different things, but one of them is definitely related to the tracks, track owners, sanctioning bodies, insurance, for track for the people running the event. Um, the Hedge guy, it's his private track, right? Like, he can basically do whatever he wants. He built it. Um, he wasn't necessarily worried about the money aspect of it or the insurance aspect of it. After I talked to them for a while, and then we went back and forth via email, and eventually got it so that we could run in one lap. He was most worried about not being able to run on the track if we damaged it
Yeah, because it would
because it's
create.
his track, it's his
Yeah,
backyard.
well, because if the car started melting down, and even if they threw like a blanket over it, right, to like kind of like smother the flames a little bit, it would. Well, no, there's like an electric car blanket thing to like
That doesn't work at
control
all.
fires.
It's a totally dumb idea.
Is it
Yes,
okay?
they do make those, but it's really dumb.
Okay,
So the
but
thing about
it would
fire,
damage
so
the surface, right?
it would damage the surface. Yep. So the big thing is the difference between ice fires and EV fires. An EV fire isn't like a big flambe thing. The gas tank is punctured, the whole thing goes up. No, it like what happens is some cell in the pack starts to overheat. It will go into thermal runaway. It'll light its neighbors on fire, and then like the whole thing, right? That takes a while, and the car doesn't like immediately shut off. You probably have 30 seconds to 2 minutes between when you first have a problem and when you really need to be out of the car.
Gotcha. Hmm.
So what I was talking about with Hedge Howell and what we've been talking about, like trying to put some sort of consortium or something together to tell all the tracks because they all don't have good information, is actually no, just make several spots around the track where if there's an EV with a problem, you just have them pull off, and we're not gonna try and put the fire out because once you have a thermal runaway fire, the car's toast. There's no reason to try and put it out. Let the thing burn to the ground, but get it out of the way and make sure it doesn't light a building or the track or anything else on fire.
So
And
like a
Like a
runaway brake
gravel
for a
trap
semi
or
truck.
something.
yeah, yeah, basically just a bunch of rocks. Just pull over in a bunch of rocks. Yeah, so with Hedge Hollow, they don't have that, of course. So what I talked to them about is we just pull out of the way in the grass behind one of the barriers. As long as we're there, he didn't care if the car lit on fire. It's not an insurance problem. They can just get it out of the way. You let it burn. It's not a problem then when you tow it. Um, and they can keep using the track. But the other part of that same discussion is because there's a lot of coverage, news coverage about EV fires, people think that it happens all the time, and it doesn't.
No,
They
it's
are
it's actually way less
extremely
it's way less often than cars that actually use gas.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. But even so, there's differentiation between different kinds of EVs, the design of them, the chemical composition of the batteries, etc. So it's not like you could say, yeah, you can take a bolt-on track, but don't take a Taycan, or vice versa. No, you have to look at each different car, its design, and first of all ask, is it designed to be on the track anyway? Like, who wants to run a bolt on the track?
Whoa, you
It's not
just
a good.
offended at least a dozen people.
I'm okay with that today. I'm okay with that today. Um, a bolt should not be on the track. So let's not design systems and everything to get a bolt on the track. There are a few cars which have packs which are designed in a way where they're just not likely to be on fire ever. And so let's take those, let's pull the ones that actually deserve or are designed to be on a track and will be fun to drive. And then let's figure out how to make rules that match those. And the truth is, like, no car anywhere in the world that we're aware of, no EV has been on fire on a track. The most dangerous time for EVs is actually when you're charging them, not when you're running them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So be careful about. Say it again.
I said that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so be
Hmm.
careful about where you charge them. Uh, most times, tracks will have when they do have chargers, they're not, like, literally in the middle of the paddock next to a building or whatever, you put them out towards the side. Like, they have the ones in California at Laguna, those are actually right next to the building, that's an interesting choice. But the ones at, like,
Pit race.
Thunderhill.
Thunderhill, those are, like, way out in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's other things that you should do, in addition to picking cars that are designed for the track and picking cars that are designed in a safer way.
Randy Pope's told a story last week that was literally him doing an event with a home built
Yeah,
EV, and the thing
yes.
caught fire charging in the charger caught fire in paddock that they'd built
But
for
the
themselves.
car didn't catch on fire, the charger
The
caught on
charger,
fire
yeah.
while charging
So
one of the
what you're saying
batteries,
is
yeah.
like fully checks out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's another thing where it's like the difference between an OEM built powertrain, power system, and then a, like, homebrew thing are probably vastly different, just like they are for ICE cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you want a homebrew EV on a
No.
truck that you
That sounds
own.
dangerous. Like, you could be just in your garage, and the next thing you know, you're a Pop-Tart, like like,
Well, what
it could
I
go
forget who I
very
was
badly quickly.
yeah, I forget who I was talking to, but they were trying to go to this motorsports event with a car. It might have been one of you two, honestly. They were trying to go to a motorsports event with an EV that was home built, and the track or the event or somebody said, "No, you can't run that car. It's home built. That's not." And the person was like, "Listen, dude, if I got my home built electronic vehicle to the racetrack, all of the danger is behind us. Like it's already like I would have killed myself in my garage if this was actually dangerous. I got it here. It's fine, you know." I don't know what this was, the context of it, but I remember hearing the story and I thought it was funny.
Yeah, there are some, companies starting to make, like, actual motorsports spec, EVs, either, motors, batteries, packs, all that kinda stuff. That stuff is, in my opinion, still really, really in its infancy.
I was gonna
Um,
ask, are you interested in that at all, or are you guys liking the path you're taking with the like the production EV stuff? Or do you miss rotaries?
I'm not sure that we have the time commitment and maybe the money to try to build something from motorsport grade stuff. I mean, Sasha has that 350Z
Yeah.
that runs in grid life, and that thing's really entertaining, but it's eye-wateringly expensive, and the time commitment and the engineering prowess is otherworldly. So, um, it's maybe not in the cards for us just from that perspective, but it's cool. I mean, I think it's really cool when guys who know what they're doing can start to play with hybrids and now EVs and on the track and
I think we're closer to doing a conversion than we would be. So, like, use the Tesla stuff as designed, maybe with a different control or something, and build a car off of that, then we would be just making it from scratch. Yeah, we're not gonna
yeah.
make it from scratch. It's too
Yeah.
expensive and
Are most of the
yeah.
modifications you do for the Tesla like cooling? Like, is there like cooling modifications? Because in theory, if you have it better cooling, then you can run faster.
Yeah, so it's most of the modifications we do is the suspension, brakes, aero, the fun go fast stuff that we all, started when we were 15 thinking about. But
Stuff that doesn't require software.
stuff that yeah, doesn't require software. We did start with the plaid, we started to play with cooling and put a big second radiator in a parallel circuit, cooling wise, with the stock battery radiator. Thinking, oh, we're going to keep this battery colder, and we'll be able to run all 3 laps at 1,050 horsepower or whatever. And it was pretty minimal the change. We actually got a lot more of an aero benefit out of getting the air out the hood that comes in the
Hmm.
front of the car
Yeah.
than we
Yeah.
got cooling at all, just to keep the front planted. But the problem with EVs is their optimal operating temperature is considerably lower on the coolant loop than an ICE car. If they're at 150 degrees, they're already really hot, and so you end up with a scenario where the temperature difference between the water and the air is a lot
Oh,
lower,
yeah, that makes
and
sense.
at when it's 95 degrees at Road Atlanta or
110 on the track.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, you're just not getting much heat to reject out of those. So,
The other problem is, like, current gen cells, you can't get the heat out of the cell quick enough. So, like, even if we can reject it all out the front of the car, we can't get the heat out of the cell.
Yeah, it's like the
So
heat
it will.
transfer into the water isn't
yeah.
quick enough.
Yep. Yep, and Teslas are pretty good, at doing that. I don't think anyone else is really much better yet. There's
Yeah.
different designs where you could
So that
cool the
would
cells.
yeah, that would come down to like literally the infrastructure of the cooling veins that like go through the battery pack and how
Right.
close they
Yep.
are to the hot spots of the batteries because it only needs
Yep.
to get too hot in one spot for it to now be an issue.
Who's this
The
guy?
real yeah, there's that,
The
but the real
computers, Tom.
key
Gotcha. Sorry, go ahead. Carry on.
yeah, the real key is the cell design itself and having the thing not make the heat. So they haven't figured out the mass manufacturing of it yet, but Tesla has designed a battery, is that fair to say, that will produce what, 30% of the heat or something or
It's
less?
90% less heat.
So if you don't make the heat, then you don't have to deal with it.
So that would like the future of that would look like what like graphene like circuitry and stuff like that. So it's like more superconductor, like less resistance on the no? You're shaking your head.
No, you don't have to go crazy like that. You just have to make it the current path in a standard battery, like, when you unroll the whole thing that's inside the cell, is, like, 30 inches long. So instead of doing that, if you just make it so that the entire edge of the jelly roll is what they call it, is a current collector, then the maximum distance that the current has to travel is an inch and a half,
Oh, I
2
gotcha.
inches.
So it doesn't have to go through the whole coil, because that's where the heat's
Exactly,
being generated is in the coil of the battery?
exactly.
Ah,
Yep,
okay. Damn.
Yep.
Look at all this information that the audience besides Tom is learning.
Yeah,
Tom's
pretty much.
face.
point is you can drive fast longer, Tom. You can drive fast longer.
I understand the implications. I don't understand what we're talking about, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. I'm sure it's very interesting. I'm trying to like picture it in the. I'm picturing a cool shirt. Is that a fair thing to say? Like it's a cool shirt for a battery for a car?
It kind of the what they have right now kind of looks like a cool shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So can you if you
that's my reading
imagine
level.
if the water like normally a cool shirt, the water's like 40 degrees, right? Now, if the water is 90 degrees, well, that's still cooler than your body, but it's not gonna feel that great.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Boom, got
Exactly.
it. So
Yeah. So
what if you
probably
what if you sprayed water like on the radiator? Would that help? Or it's not even hot enough for like that evaporation to instantly happen to pull the
you're,
energy out.
you're talking to the HVAC engineer, just so you
Okay.
know.
It's so the water has been tried. You're right. It's still not enough of a temperature difference to get the evaporative effect.
Okay.
We actually started to get really silly after I think I had a couple beers in the shop here, and we were talking about like an ice bath, like in a cooler in the front of the
Oh, just like living
Yeah.
there.
and just literally like a water to water exchange with an ice bath that we would fill before every one lap session. And
I think
uh,
Adam
Yeah, but then you'd have to
Jabay.
plan out
Go ahead,
then
Tom.
you'd have to plan out how to get the car fully charged and stop for ice and fill it up
yes,
and have the car still fully charged.
And
Oh,
now you know why this is a terrible idea.
okay, so
Yeah,
hold on,
right.
because you could do just dry ice. Because I think Adam Jabay had something where he had like an intake. Oh, okay? You guys are pointing at each other like you've already thought of this. So
Oh, we talked about that too.
Yeah, Adam Jabay had like
there were
a
beers involved.
supercharger or something that he needed to keep cool, and he built like a thing to like run like dry ice cooled water through it or something. You'd have to ask Adam. He was doing some wild stuff, but it worked. It functioned for like the 15 minutes of GLTC racing.
So the thing is, we have a 1,400 pound pack that we're already using as our heat sink. When we go out before a session, we let it run for a while, ideally half an hour, it just depends,
Cooling.
cooling. And we get that thing already down to like what, 40 degrees, 50 degrees sometimes
The
ambient,
coolant,
but so below ambient.
the coolant in the car.
And then the intensity, say it again?
It's
What?
using the refrigeration system to actually cool the coolant that cools the pack. It's pre-cooling,
Oh, that is pretty
basically.
cool. Okay,
Cool, okay.
but
So it's
hold
using the
on.
air conditioner to cool the pack.
Okay. Right. Okay. So then by the time you do your outlap, it's at because the battery isn't going to make optimal power unless it's at like a specific temperature, right?
True.
So
Yep.
you do
The
the
lower the
outlap.
temperature,
Oh, the
mhm.
lower it's better?
Nope, lower the temperature, the lower the power.
Okay. So then by the time you do the outlap, now you're just at like the ideal temperature instead of already creeping into like the hot zone. Is that the thought?
Yep.
If you do it right.
If you do it right. So add that to all the other stuff we were talking about optimizing for the track. You're trying to
Yeah.
optimize to get back to the start line at the right temperature.
Now add no sleep.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's making sense
Uh,
now. I remember one day this year, I don't remember which day it was, but it was towards the end of the week and something had gone wrong in the morning. And I remember talking to you, Andy. You're like, this morning wasn't what we wanted. And it was like, we didn't get our prep right. And I thought, it's like day 6. What, like, you should be in your rhythm by now. But now that I'm hearing all these moving parts in bigger detail, it makes a lot of sense how, like, I could forget to set my tire pressure in one corner, but you guys have, like, infinitely
more.
more, uh, infinitely worse consequences if you don't get that, like, checklist right.
Yeah, the equation has like 6 or 8 variables before we go out on track, and then you still have to optimize it while you're driving too. So
Do you guys have like a physical procedure just to keep everything straight, or you guys just let it live in your head?
yes.
Okay.
Right.
It's on the phone. It's on the phone, right? And if we think of it, we look at it. Usually, we're in too much of a scramble, and we're just doing things as they come into our
And
heads, and
yelling at
that's
each other.
usually how we screw
Did
it up.
you did you ice bath the coolant
Yeah, exactly.
Would it
Yeah,
help if we
it's
did a, like, Super Bowl winning Gatorade ice bucket dump on you?
right
Would
before
that
you
make
go
the
yeah,
car
out?
better?
Right before you leave.
Right at yeah.
Like
that might help.
through the
Yeah,
driver window.
yeah.
What do you think
I
about that, Andy?
I'm gonna pass.
Pass. Mountain pass.
Boom. Got him. All right, we have some questions that we plan on asking all our guests. Uh, since we're an hour and 20 minutes in at the moment, are you guys car guys?
I think so.
I think it's safe to say.
We
Yes.
think we are. Others might not think so, being what we're driving these days, but, you know,
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
you're microwave guys, toaster guys.
that toaster.
You guys love
Yeah.
We
toaster
have our
strudels.
stories in here. We're just trying to make up for all of the stuff that we burned over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
'Cause
Okay.
From your
about 4
rotary.
miles per gallon on track the entire time.
Sure.
Hey, that sounds pretty
I
efficient.
will say we have 7 cars in here, and there's not a single piston.
Oh, that is true.
I I did make that connection. If you guys are just, like, completely averse to the, like like, anything with a cylinder or a piston or whatever that car part's called.
So
It's worked out that way.
you guys are car guys as long as there's no pistons involved.
I mean, technically, there's a whole bunch of pistons outside, though, that we drove here.
That's true. Our daily drivers.
What are the
So,
We're gonna
dailies?
ignore that.
What are the dailies?
besides, well, I have a Tesla, but I also have a Tundra that I drive. Shout out to the Toyota guys for keeping us alive.
Yes.
We didn't get to that,
Yeah.
but they did keep us alive.
Oh yeah,
I have a Miata.
did we get distracted on what the issue was for the last day of
Yeah, we did get distracted.
It's
Yes.
so
it's
what was
pretty simple. Well, it was supercharging. I'll just make it quick. While it was supercharging, it is running the air conditioner, the refrigerant loop again, and it's creating all sorts of vibrations. Well, in the many years that we've run the car and driving it across the country and everything else, this was all stock, by the way. This was no modifications. It rubbed through a wiring harness, and the car freaked out because it couldn't talk to the front motor, and so it would not go anywhere. It would not charge. It would not do anything. And so they spotted it because it was actually arcing against the
Oh,
aluminum of the thing. So you get enough people standing around in the front of the car in the dark at 2 o'clock in the morning. Somebody spotted
you
something,
see a flash of light, you're like,
and
"Hey, I think I found the issue."
yeah, they saw a little smoke get out, and we fixed it. So
Smoke it out. Nice.
Wow.
Did you
That's
only have to
wild.
jump one wire?
I think they jumped in and sort of took over.
We don't actually
I think they repaired 3 different small wires.
Okay. Well, small wires are hard to, especially if it's already in a bundle. Those are like kind of hard to replace. Whoever did that's it's got some skills.
Toyota engineers.
Yeah. Those guys are like the kind of the heroes of the event, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yes,
Okay,
every year.
so uh so Andy, you said that your daily is a Miata,
Yeah, I have a Miata,
like a new one?
2016 Miata. Well, 2016?
Yeah,
And
cool.
D1?
I've actually been I've been trying to figure out for a new daily, and I'm like part of me is like, ooh, a GR86 would be cool, but they're kind of expensive, because I'd basically have to get a new car. But I have been looking at 2016 Miata Sports. They're like
That's what I
nothing.
have.
Yeah, but they're like so cheap. You can get one for like 12 grand. That's a great car for $12,000. So
Mine was not $12,000. However, it is a great car, and I have kids, so I drive my kids around to soccer and
yeah,
baseball, and I
yeah,
get to drive a Miata around. It's
yeah. So
fantastic.
you throw them in the trunk.
We've had 4 people in the Miata, but only for a very short distance.
Was anybody in the trunk?
I love it.
You don't
Nobody
have
was
to
in the trunk.
answer. Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
No children were in the trunk.
Nobody was allegedly in the trunk.
At least the trunk wasn't closed if there was anyone in it.
Okay. Fair. All
No
right.
one calls CPS.
Uh uh debate that comes up sometimes on the podcast is talent versus effort. Um I have historically said that I don't think talent as far as driving a car exists. Tom has been persuaded each way multiple times. I think Randy probably persuaded him the other way last week. Um, but what does talent exist essentially?
Big question.
It's I think it's somewhere in between. Randy put it pretty well. There's some inherent physical and mental qualities that make it a shallower learning curve, maybe. is how I would put it.
Okay.
Um, Andy and I are probably good examples. Like, I would need a lot of seat time to be as fast as him that I don't get, and part of it is just I have an engineer brain, so I'm thinking about the car when I'm supposed to be thinking about driving the car fast and thinking about things that aren't related to what you should be thinking about. And I think that certain people can focus on things that make them faster more than others, maybe. I don't know. Is that fair to say? I don't know how you would put it, but that's kind of
I I
how I
think
think
when
about it.
you're so you're just saying that you're thinking about things that you're not supposed to while you're driving the car. I think that if you get to the place where you don't have to think about the car to drive it well, then you've actually gotten pretty good at it,
I'll
and
let you know when that happens.
Yeah.
and then you can think about all that other stuff. So the thing about the plaid we were talking about, right? All that crap that I'm trying to keep track of. Well, the very first time I drove the car, I was like, I don't know if I can ever get to that point with this car, or like if anyone could, because it's just so extreme in all the ways.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now after 3 years, I do feel like, especially if we turn it down to like 850 or 900 horsepower, um, I can drive the car without thinking about the dynamics of it very much and do a reasonable job of it, and then, yes, I can think about all that other stuff. Um, does that relate to the talent versus effort
I
question?
I think it does.
Uh,
Because you're building these subconscious executable programs in your head that like keeping track of the car, like its battery health as you're doing the lap. That used to take up a bunch of bandwidth, but as you get reps in it, you're building like these pathways in your brain that is much more efficient at handling that task where you're not having to use as much of your bandwidth to keep track of that thing. You're still keeping track of it, but you're so practiced at it that you're not using a bunch of bandwidth. So my stance has always been like, to get good at driving, you have to build all these like executable programs that run in the background. And as you like keep stacking all these like subconscious programs, uh, that's when you start to get better at driving. And if you focus on building those programs, and that's where you're really going to start unlocking some speed for yourself. And I don't know if there's a talent that it involves building those programs, because it just takes like repetition and practice and like a focus on turning that into like a practice skill.
so I agree with what you said. Some people could do that way faster, though, than others.
Well, and I think what I would say is when I watch like videos of Tom driving versus other people or, you know, people that might get labeled as aliens, they do that. They set up all those subroutines and they're executing all that, but then they have almost like an AI adaptability to tweak those constantly in every corner with every thing the car does and with every little motion and thing they see and thing they feel and the seat of their pants. And so it's almost like the difference between I think, with a truly talented person and maybe someone else where, yeah, you're laying all that stuff down, but can you actually continually adapt real time or not? I don't know, because that's something I can't do. I can get the muscle memory down and I can get a pretty good lap time after 50 laps, but it's not going to be the first or second lap by any means.
What it,
That's just my perspective, but
but what if, like, not to take away from Tom's alien abilities, but what if Tom uh, has all these sub executable programs built in his head? What are you laughing about, Tom? Uh,
'Cause I'm right here, guys. I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
uh, of all the experience, all the different things he's driven, and all the different tracks, and all the different cars he's driven at those tracks, and experiences through the 20 years that Tom's been driving, where it makes it look like it's the sixth sense, but really it's just the experience and calling back on that experience and doing it so often, where he doesn't get rusty, where these things are front of mind and ready to pop uh, uh, into usefulness at any moment. Would that make
yeah,
it
that could be
would that
it's an
disguise itself
interesting
as
debate.
talent?
Th There's one other part of it too, like, some people perceive or experience but don't perceive. So, like, when you're driving, uh if you're trying to go fast or whatever, do you actually understand what's happening while you're driving, or do you not?
Okay, so
and then
that's what Randy was talking about kinda last week, and that's kinda where I
okay,
conceded a little bit on the, like, the talent versus effort thing, because I do think
that's the
people
talent. Yep.
I do, because I don't know how you, at least so far, I haven't figured out how you would train, like, the perception of it, or, like, some people are just killers when it comes to, competition. I don't know how you would get that out of somebody. Um
Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that, where, like, there's, like, I think that's part of, like, the being, and I'm not, at least I haven't figured out a way, or, figured out a way to explain it yet, where, like, that can be a mendable part of somebody's brain to help them drive faster, is, yeah, perception matters, like, just, I do think with the more bandwidth that you unlock, you will perceive more, but there is people that just seem like they just perceive, even with less experience, or maybe they're even doing slower laps than somebody else. They do seem to perceive more, and I haven't figured that one out yet.
Everybody's brain is wired different.
It really is. It's fascinating.
Differences.
All right,
Yeah.
we got one more. What do you guys think about sour cream? No,
Oh,
it's got a thumbs down and then a shrug. All
damn.
right, dang. You know what? You guys are lucky. Tom convinced me to do this at the end of the episode.
Last week he led with that with Randy, and then ambushed Randy with Carlton, the car guy, Carlton the car guy, and Randy had like this double whammy of what the heck
Yeah,
is
he's like,
going
"What
on
did I
here?
sign up for?" Poor Randy.
I was like, maybe we should do the sour cream at the end.
My
Uh,
funny Monday thing is they ran the unplugged car. They went up Pikes Peak the last couple of years, right? 2, 3 years.
Yeah.
And I tried to explain to him what we were talking about, how to drive the car for fastest time, where you squirt out of the corners, you basically go to maintenance only, blah, blah, blah. And then he went up and he said, "Oh, yeah, I got it, got it." And then he went to Pikes Peak and he just went 100% the whole thing of time. And they were like cooked in 3 minutes. I'm
That
like,
kind of
"Randy,
checked out. Yeah,
what
I
did you
can see that.
also,
So
so he doesn't like sour cream?"
no, he does.
No, he does, but I think it happened like within 15 minutes of the podcast starting, and we hadn't talked
I just had to know.
with him that much.
I had to know.
Yeah, we just had to know. All right,
Right.
so Andy's a thumbs down, and Chad is a whatever. Take it or leave it.
I'm from Wisconsin, I like cheese, but no sour cream.
No sour cream. Wow. What do you? Okay. Follow-up question. Do you even go? Do you even go to Taco Bell then?
Not really.
Yeah. Okay, that
he's a
checks out.
Chipotle guy.
Yep, that
Chipotle.
follows. Okay. Yeah. I guess.
He's an athlete.
I mean, I
Look at
love
him.
Chipotle
Gotta
too, but like you gotta mix it up. It's like Chipotle and then Taco Bell, and then you can go back to Chipotle because it's not 2 days in a row. Like you're good.
I had Chipotle almost every day for several years in college because they put one at the University of Minnesota where I went. It was like the 10th one, first one outside of Colorado, and it was 1 block from my apartment, and I ate there every day, sometimes twice a day.
And I've heard that multiple people that behaved like that. And can you imagine doing that with Taco Bell? Oh,
Ooh,
Oh,
no.
I don't have to imagine, Chad. Wow, I've never felt so
Torchies.
judged before in my life.
Can we bring Torchies into it?
Torchies?
yeah, there's a
Torchies
taco place in Texas. I don't know if it's a chain. I think it is
is
a
a
chain
chain,
I've
yeah,
heard of
called
Torchies
Yeah.
before,
Torchy's
but I don't think
Tacos.
I've ever eaten at one. Did we eat at Torchies in like a
because
gas station, Tom?
we go to all the chargers everywhere. We
Okay.
actually go to restaurants. So Torchies
Wait.
is next to the charger in Denton.
Okay. Okay,
It's
this makes me think of a
ridiculously good.
thing. This is just gonna carry the podcast longer, I'm sorry, but when I had a Tesla rental car, I forgot to charge it the night before leaving Coda to go back to where I was staying, and I had to wake up early and I had to stop at a supercharger. It was 6 in the morning in Austin, Texas, and there was like a Tesla only car meet happening at the Starbucks thing was, and a bunch of Tesla guys hanging out with their coffee. Do you guys do that? Is that a thing? Or was this just in an Austin on that day?
I I think most Tesla people are kind of weird. So the meats can be kind of weird. So I
I
think
thought it was
we
weird.
just rather hang out with motorsports people and
Yeah,
just be the Tesla goofy guys.
but
So,
maybe they're not car guys after
They're coffee guys.
Coffee guys.
They
Yeah.
just all happen to drive Teslas. So, all right.
There's definitely different subcultures of the Tesla people. We're the motorsports people, which is a small portion, a very small portion.
It will grow. It will grow. There was quite a few cars doing that Model 3 challenge thing at Laguna Seca last year.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Lime Rock too.
So, all right. We're gonna start wrapping up the podcast. Do you guys have anything exciting coming up?
We're still kind of trying to figure out what we're going to do the rest of the year, quite honestly. So,
Is it just gonna be
um,
recon for one lap that apparently Tom already has insider information on?
really, how much is that going to cost?
Tom probably already booked all of his Airbnbs for next year.
I don't even know if
I
I'm
don't
gonna
even know
get to
if I
do it next year.
can-
Well,
So you don't know what's coming
Maybe,
up? Nothing exciting?
yeah, maybe we'll make you come in the plaid with us.
That'd be fun. I would still love to drive. I've driven John Laughlin's Model 3 Performance once. And I feel like I didn't understand. I did the Randy thing. I just went full tenths, like full 10 tenths for one lap of NCM. And I would be very intrigued to try a car, more knowledge, but also that's better, further prepped. John's it was a good car, but just like one lap once kind of thing. Are you
I
guys
think
doing
we'd
any
love
more
to
grid
have
lives this
other
year?
people experience this car. So, like both of
Yeah,
you, sometime. Let's do it.
oh, that sounds fun. Sign me up. I want my eyeballs
there you
to
go.
recess into my skull. That sounds great.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you guys do
Turn the
any more?
power down. DJ.
Oh no, come on.
Just for you.
Dang it. Um is you guys doing any more grid life events?
Probably not this year. I don't know. We'll see. We haven't really planned any further than one lap this year. It was last year we did quite a few events and grid life and everything, and we even shipped my Model 3 and the Plaid out to Laguna and Willow Springs, and that was just a lot for with jobs and families and stuff like that, and a lot of money to ship cars, and so this year we were kind of thinking about taking it easy, but we're not sure. I don't know. We don't have any plans yet.
You guys are based in Colorado or Minnesota?
No, Minnesota.
Minnesota, that's right. They're all in the same area, just west-ish.
Flyover country. I get it. Yep.
Anybody who knows anything about geography is like turning off the podcast right now. They're like, all right, that's the last straw. First the sour cream, and now Minnesota is basically the same as Colorado. Get out of here.
There's snow. We both have snow.
That is true.
Yeah.
See,
Lots of
guys, come on. You got to cut me a break here. It was close enough.
Yep. I was
To-
born in Colorado, so that counts. But anyway, go ahead.
Tom, what about you? Do you got anything fun coming up this weekend?
Well, I was gonna go to the Toledo tour,
You mean Cleveland?
Cleveland tour, but I kind of forgot to find a ride.
We
So I'm
can
gonna
find
work
you a
on that.
ride. We can find you a ride.
Yeah, I'm gonna find a ride. I kind of forgot about that, but that's my plan for this weekend is the Cleveland tour.
We could probably find you a D Street ride if you want to go against yours truly. Hmm?
I'd rather drive something more fun. I'm gonna
Oh,
try to find
fine.
something more fun than the
Fine.
D Street car.
Wow.
I'm gonna try to find something more fun than the car I drive every day to the grocery store.
Oh, that's true. You do drive that to the grocery store. I forgot about that. Okay. Well, that's
It
what
was
I'm
just
doing
fully
this
off my
weekend.
radar. That's what you're doing too?
Yep. I'm at the Cleveland National Tour autocross event. It'll be fun. You guys got to do more events. There's stuff to do every weekend if you look hard enough.
I think there's two things. One thing, we're gonna try and get these ARC-7s running so that we could run them in GLTC and Time Attack. And then the second thing is we want to try and get that consortium thing going where people don't tell EVs not to come to the track.
Gotcha.
And that would be like people from SCCA and NASA and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be a project. Yes, it's not driving, but it's motorsports adjacent, and I think it'd be fun to be kind of out in front of figuring out what it means to run EVs.
Well, if you need to lean on our audience in any capacity, just let us know and we'll put the word out.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be great.
Cool. All right. We good? Should we wrap it up?
sure thing.
All right.
Wait, should we have each of them? I think one of you should try Love Your Hair and the other one does Hope You Win, and DJ has to cue you and get the timing right.
Oh
All
my
three of
god,
you
I
gotta nail it.
completely screwed it up last week with Randy. I'm very sorry, Randy. All right, so who's doing I love your hair? Okay, so Chad's gonna do I love your hair, and Andy's gonna do I hope you win. Do you understand how it works, Andy? Or are you getting thrown into the fire?
He's never listened to
He shakes his head no.
No, I've listened to it. I listened to all the one lap ones, just not the normal one.
Did we
I
do?
don't remember what the cue is.
Did we do the
but-
outro in
We
the
did.
one lap ones? Okay, so all right, here's the music. All right, okay. There's a break in the music, and then that's when you say, "I love
Oh,
your
you
hair."
got it wrong.
hope you-"
You already
Oh,
missed
I
it.
messed it up. It has to be before. That's where I screwed up Andy or Randy. So okay,
Yeah.
so it's just before it. I'm gonna point. Chad's gonna say, "I love your hair," and then you're gonna immediately say, "I hope you win." It will go silent, and then the thing will play out, and then we'll all like give each other's like silent claps because you guys killed it. You ready?
You got to fill this time. You
Oh,
can't just sit there.
thanks for tuning in, everyone.
You're already too late.
Love your hair.
Hope you win.
It was close enough.